Hi. Okay, I literally have like 5 minutes because I have an appointment, but I really wanted to get this out there because so many thoughts are coming to me today, and I feel like I'm finally catching a glimpse of clarity around my life, my purpose, all of that stuff. A couple weeks ago, I did a live video titled My Midlife Crisis, and I just wanted to follow up with that and let you guys know just a little bit of where I'm at now and kind of some of the things that I'm realizing. This has been a 3-year process, and I literally feel like it is like a metamorphosis. Like I am becoming a new person, and it is exciting and terrifying all at the same time. So a lot of what I've been struggling with is like letting go of my former self and expanding and evolving into a new version of me, which is, like I said, very scary. And when you compare it to the butterfly and the caterpillar, and I think it's just such a very interesting analogy when you think about how the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. But I used to think that the caterpillar was just developed wings. I know it sounds stupid, but I didn't know that it, like the body part of the butterfly, it is nothing like the caterpillar. I just thought it like grew wings in the cocoon. But what I didn't realize is that it literally melts down and it looks nothing like the caterpillar. Absolutely nothing like the caterpillar. And I don't know why I never observed that in the past, but the more I've like kind of thought about that analogy, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're literally melting down into like liquid fluid and nothingness, and then you evolve into this new version of yourself that, you know, like if you imagine being the caterpillar, it doesn't know that it's transforming into something new. And I think that's kind of what I've experienced for a while, is just not knowing, so much not knowing of where I was headed, my goals, who I am, you know, being 40 years old and just now feeling like everything has been, you know, the ground has been swept out from underneath me, and literally having no clue who I am. And I never imagined that at age 40 I would have so many questions and so many unanswered questions, which brings me to the point that I wanted to talk about today. I wrote down a whole bunch of things, but I'm going to save it for a podcast episode next week. So if you're interested in kind of knowing more of my whole journey, the past 3 years, I've documented it all on the podcast, Wannabe Balanced. And I'm going to share more of my insights and thoughts and things that I'm starting to, like I said, find clarity around. But today, in this moment, on this live, I wanted to share one thing that I have. It's been this huge aha, even though it's always been something in the beginning 3 years ago when I first left the Mormon church. This was like the biggest thing for me, but I never could figure out how to tap into my own intuition. I felt like I had failed myself so many times in the past, believing that I was led by my intuition. And so not really understanding what the difference was between my intuition, following what I believed at the time was the spirit, following the spirit. And now realizing that that wasn't necessarily the spirit, that was more like social pressure or just doing what I've been told by so many other people. And so the one thing that I realized kind of this morning as I was listening to a YouTube video podcast, and I just was thinking, oh my gosh, I have this question came to my mind, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just like ask him this question. I got distracted. I'm getting a phone call from my daughter. Anyway, and then I kind of stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I do. I have a question and I'm desperate to ask the person who at the time I'm like looking up to and like gaining so much insight and knowledge from. And I always put them on a pedestal. And now I'm more aware of it, but it's just like I'm catching myself more and more how I go to other people first to answer my questions instead of having the question, sitting with the question, asking myself first what I think the answer to the question is, and then exploring all the other opinions and people who have done all the research and, you know, authors and all these people that I really have learned and gained so much from. But, you know, I wrote this down. I said, when questions come to my mind, I need to get better at asking myself the question rather than searching for the answers through other people. And in the past, I've often thought that, you know, if only I could have 1 hour with the prophet or with Oprah or with Eckhart Tolle or the Buddha, like I always was like, oh my gosh, I just wish I could have 1 hour and I'd ask them all my questions, and then just feeling hopeless, like I'll never get the answers to my questions. But now it's just like realizing that I've never really taken the time to ask myself the questions and just, you know, let myself answer them from my intuition. I haven't practiced that my whole life. So I, of course, would still jump at the opportunity to, you know, meet with Oprah or Eckhart Tolle and ask them my questions. But I'm realizing that when I'm learning and listening from them, I need to learn and listen objectively and not taking everything as fact or doctrine or scripture. And it's been one of the most challenging things I've had to learn because human nature wants comfort in knowing the truth about life and about who we are. But what I'm coming to realize is that truth is so multidimensional that to believe that there is only one truth, then that really blocks us from truly expanding our knowledge. So I want to talk more about this because it's something that I feel like I'm starting to like gather pieces and things are starting to make sense, and I'm starting to understand more of what my intuition feels like and sounds like and connecting with that. And I feel like it's going to be a practice, something that I need to, you know, step into and learn more of, because it's still very unclear to me. I'm having a hard time distinguishing the difference between what is going on in my head that I've heard from other people, you know, what have I read through books and all of that, gathered so much knowledge over the years from other people, and then trying to separate that from, well, what is me? What is my inner knowing, my inner voice saying? And kind of separating the two and still looking at, you know, I still want to read books and listen to podcasts, like all of it. I just can't get enough of it. But I'm learning to just do it more objectively instead of taking it all in without ever really pondering it and questioning it even. Because people that I respect, if they say things that I'm like, wait a minute, I don't, first of all, maybe I don't understand that, or I don't relate to that, or I don't agree. A lot of times I would be like, oh wait, why don't I agree? Like, what's wrong with me? And instead of just being like, oh, it's okay, I don't agree with that. Now I'm learning to do that for the first time in my life, and I'm 40 years old. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share today, but stay tuned for the podcast because I'm going to kind of elaborate a little bit more on some things that I'm realizing now, and it's been exciting and a lot of personal work I've had to go through over the last few years, but starting to make sense of things. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you soon.